All right, Fierce Fighting Championship 30 is in the books. And Zach, we said at the top of the broadcast that we would learn a lot, and boy, did we. It was a great show. Some big changes in the guard. A lot of new champions. Your thoughts overall on the night?
Overall, I mean, what a phenomenal night of fights. I think there was a lot of shocking performances. There was a lot of surprises on the card. It's kind of the beautiful thing about the sport is, you just never know. You just never know. And I think it's why MMA is such a polarizing sport, and I think combat is the purest form of competition. And on any given night, it can, everything can happen. We don't make plans. I've said it before as a matchmaker. We don't. I have plans for every outcome. And there's a lot of surprises tonight, and then there was a lot of things that happened that maybe we did kind of expect. So top to bottom, I just have so much love for all the fighters that just come out here and just lay it all on the line. I mean, there was so much heart and grit and toughness showed in that cage tonight, and I'm just grateful for all 28 competitors that stepped in the cage tonight.
It was an amazing night. So many competitive bouts. We're going to kick things off with Nico Braswell and Elisa Kamaunu. Nico Braswell getting it done by decision. He looked like he just did everything he wanted to in there, Zach.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll say, Nico's a problem. 145, be on notice. That kid's a problem. But one of the things that stood out to me is Elisa. Dude, he was really tired going into that second round. That kid never quit. He has no quit in him. And I just love watching that. And that's when you watch those young Ammies that they have the heart, and they'll just be just fine. I look forward to seeing both of them back into the cage, and Elisa would always be welcome back up here. But Nico's a problem. That kid is a very, very cage aware for a debuter. His cage awareness was really nice.
All right, we move over to strawweight. Xiaoya Luo puts her words into action. She said she would knock out Grayson Johnson. She does so in spectacular fashion. What a showing it was for her out of Syndicate.
And she looked phenomenal, and she landed a really nice head kick that just Grayson I don't know if she was like out, because I could kind of see her, but mentally it kind of made her not want to be there anymore is what it looked like. I don't want to speak for Grayson, but sometimes you're the hammer and sometimes you're the nail in this sport. And Grayson had one of the best, knockouts for any of our women's MMA fights in 2023. And, she started 2024 with a loss, and, she's a tough girl and she'll be back and she has some things to fix. But, wow. I mean, Xiaoya. She's phenomenal. She's a very, very good striker. She a very, very bright future in MMA, I think.
Cannot wait to see what the future holds for her. All right, Allie Downs faced off against Chloe Becker. That was another good one.
I thought that was really good. Allie was like, she wasn't super happy after it. And I was like, that was a phenomenal debut fight for her. She max effort. She did some things really, really well. She had some things that she can learn from. She lost to a fighter that had 3 fights in her debut. She lost to a more experienced fighter. I think there was a little bit of that theme on this card. Experience wins a lot of fights. And Chloe just looked, especially in that third round, it was 1-1 going into that third. And Chloe just looked like the more seasoned fighter. And did what she had to get her hand raised. But, both girls fought really hard. Nothing to be ashamed of.
All right, this was definitely one of the highlights of the night. Logan Taylor, he seems to be a problem. He does the exact same thing he did last September, and he did it faster this time, Zach.
And I'll say this, though, too. He got hit, answered that question. He took a shot. He threw a head kick that I really think was the beginning to the end, and put an absolute fantastic 5-point suplex that just made the whole arena just ooh and ah. Logan Taylor putting the 155-pound division on notice. That's another one, another young Agima fighter to look out for. Javi Castro, he was super frustrated. He just had higher expectations for himself. but he'll be just fine. And he was really a great kid to work with, and I look forward to seeing him bounce back and make some adjustments. Probably get down to his proper weight class at 145. That's what he originally asked for. He have his opportunity to fight here at the Maverick Center. He filled in for an injured Dominic Vedro, who was supposed to be the original opponent for Logan Taylor, and he moved up a weight class and took the fight. So hats off to Javi and Javier, and we'll get him back.
Javi looked absolutely great in there as well. I mean, he seriously, it was a competitive fight up until Logan started to wrestle. Like it looked really, really good. All right, we move over to the amateur lightweight title bout between Ammon Garcia and Talon Carvalho. Obviously, Ammon Garcia being your teammate, Zach, and he just cements himself as the best amateur lightweight in the state. He's the king of 155ers here.
He's the best amateur lightweight in the region, and I think that's very clean to say. This fight, to me, I knew what Ammon was. I know what he is. I train with him every day. I spar with him weekly. He's an absolute stud and killer, and he showed tonight everything that we knew him to be from his title reign and his 6-fight win streak over at Steel Fist. I didn't learn anything about Ammon tonight. What we learned tonight is how good Talon Carvalho is. And to have that fight be as good as it was, it takes two to dance. And, I heard it. I heard Talon's great. He's going to beat Ammon. I heard Talon hasn't fought enough competition. He's not ready for this. And people ask me, what do you think? And I do have my opinions. But at the end of the day, who cares? Let's just see what fights. And sometimes people are so worried about making the predictions. Or like, they're going to fight. Just watch it play out. And it turns out that Talon Carvalho, still really, really freaking good. Kid's still a stud. And, we'll see what Ammon Garcia decides to do next. He could defend his Steel Fist title. He can come back and defend the Fierce title. He could go pro. I mean, that's the beauty with Ammon. He does just take things one fight at a time. So we'll see what he wants to do next. I have absolutely no doubt that Talon Carvalho will have an amateur title in his near future. He's that good. And the beauty, again, I said it on the podcast earlier this week, is win or lose, Talon Carvalho will be better from this fight, and I guarantee he will. And Ammon looked. I am telling you, he is violent. He is nasty. He probably has the best left hook of any amateur anywhere right now. It's so nasty. And he's well-rounded, and he showed it. He transitioned from an armbar to a triangle beautifully. He just showed how complete of a fighter he is. I think he's ready to go pro. Who knows? But hats off to both of them. Talon's a stud still. Nothing changes there. Ammon is everything he was supposed to be.
I think both fighters' stocks rise despite the loss in the side of Carvalho. All right, we move over to Alex Johnson and Tyler Call. A little bit of a different fight. Alex Johnson comes away with the win. He extends his undefeated record to 4-0 and is now the middleweight champion.
He just executed a game plan better, And Tyler was so good in September in his performance there, and he was really good tonight in spots. But then there was just spots that Alex, while he has less fights, he's been doing this a long time and has a lot of competition experience, especially in the grappling department and in the clinch area. He won that fight in the clinch for the most part. Had some really nice combos. They had some good things back and forth. I felt like Tyler was getting better of the striking exchanges overall. But, I mean, Alex is really good, and we knew he was really good. We shouldn't know what the layoff would do to him. I mean, he wasn't happy with his performance. His coaches weren't super happy with his performance. Still got him a belt. So I'm really interested to see what he looks like defending his title. The very next breath, Tyler Call. Dude, he fights like the toughest guys. He fights the toughest guys.
That was his fourth straight fight against an undefeated fighter.
That's bonkers. He's so good. Like, to me, it's just like, cool, now he gets to make an adjustment, and he'll be really, really good in his next fight.
Alex Johnson, I do have to ask you, is the plan to get him on slate sooner rather than later? I mean, this was his first fight in 3 years.
See what he wants to do. I mean, I'm gonna steal a line from Dana White. I don't make fights. The night of fights. I don't make the next fight, and I'm not going to. I just had somebody come up and pitch me an idea for another thing, and I'm like, cool. Let me just digest all this and let's talk to the fighters. Like, I don't know what Alex wants to do. I don't know.
The amount of brain fog I have after these shows, I mean, I can't even think about anything, so I agree with you.
I don't know.
Totally
what does he want to do?
All right, we move over to the amateur heavyweight title bout between Lawrence Sua and Luke Saugunga. Lawrence Sua just separates himself from the rest of the pack. I mean, the output on this guy. I talked a lot about the gas tank of Saugunga, but Lawrence Sua getting the finish in the final 3 seconds of the fight via liver shot. Zach, your thoughts on it?
It was sick. Weird fight. I just did not expect it to go anything like that. You get 2 Polynesian heavyweights in there, and you just think they're going to slug it out, and somebody's going to eventually go down or gas out or whatever. And I was impressed with both of their gas tanks. They were, but Big Luke, I still call him Fiji. He's just got some things to work on. I think a lot in the discipline area and just his leading up to the fight. He'll be fine. He's a great fighter. He fights with a lot of heart, passion. He needs to get his offense going more. He needs to get off more. Just not enough volume. But here's the thing. Like, we see all these fighters all the time. They have to be on and on top of their game, and it's just hard to be always put it together on fight night. And a lot of fighters find a way to do it. Sometimes they just don't, and Lauren looked phenomenal. He has some injuries. Talked to his coaches. We'd really like to see him come back and defend that heavyweight title. So when he gets healthy, I think that's the plan. But, he's older too. He might just want to go pro. So we'll see.
What kind of injuries are we talking about?
I think a broken hand. He was in a sling. I think his elbow's fine, but that was precautionary. But I think he definitely has a broken hand. So, speedy recovery, and the champ. Hopefully we'll have the champ back to defend his title soon.
Well, it might have not necessarily met the expectations, but this next one blew them out of the water. Michael Eastwood versus Nasir Davis. Zach, I don't know if I've ever had so much fun calling a fight in my entire life.
Michael Eastwood, the wrestler, his hands looked really good. He came ready to strike with Nasir Davis, and he hit Nasir clean a few times. And, the way they were fighting, it was going to be one or the other. Nasir Davis might be the craftiest AMI striker that we have on our roster. He was incredibly crafty, and he does find a home. And I thought his takedown defense on Michael Eastwood was very, very impressive. Nasir's, dude, that kid's a problem.
He is going to be.
He's
so
5-2. His ceiling is so high, and I'm just really grateful that we have him here and we get to watch him. Michael Eastwood, man, he's 4-2 now, but both of his losses were for title fights against really, really, really good guys. So I think he'll bounce back and be just fine.
All right, we will move over to the main card. Andrew Mickelson makes his pro debut and bests Trevin Jackson in this one. Mickelson getting the submission finish, his first ever.
Yeah, I talked to Andrew a little bit during the main card, a little later in the night, and man, he has a unique opportunity right now, I think, to just skyrocket and get to the next level, probably quicker than anybody I can think of. It just getting to 1-0. I mean, I really think he has UFC potential, and he could be there in a couple of years. And he's only been training 2.5 years. I mean, his athleticism and the way he moves. I mean, I leaned over to the owner of Fierce, Cody, who I was sitting by cage side tonight, and in the first 10 seconds, and look at the way he moves for somebody that's been doing this less than 3 years. He has a great feel for the game, and he showed an area in his game that he's been working on and gets his first sub. Good on him. We usually see an electric knockout from Andrew, or just people can't deal with his power, and I think that shows to his growth and his gamemanship and being able to being a pro part of making those runs is getting fight to fight as healthy as possible too, and path of least resistance. And he just kind of just forced an arm triangle in there, and just Trevin just couldn't deal with that pressure and power.
And it wasn't even in a position where you should be able to get the tap. I mean, the squeeze on Mickelson's got to be unbelievable for a former D1 athlete.
I mean, you could see. We were watching it. You could see it in his shoulders, and it was just like, look at that squeeze. Like, oh my gosh. And this was a guy. And I will just say this: there are a lot of great amateur champions that fight kind of up a weight class of what they're going to be as pros, and they handle it no problem. And Andrew is one of them. That's a horrible day in the office for all the welterweights that have to fight him, because he handled a lot of middleweights and some big, strong middleweights really, really well.
I will say this too about Trevin Jackson. He matched the striking of Andrew Mickelson. There were it was competitive.
Heavy leg kicks, you know. I don't think Andrew's hands ever really got going like we see, but didn't need to. And, you know, Andrew's healthy, and he literally can turn around as soon as his wife tells him he can.
Love Andrew. Loved being able to talk to him a little bit after the show as well. Mauro Gutierrez taking care of business against Jose Malespin. That one was so much fun. The reversals, the output. I mean, if you Googled flyweight fight, that's the one that pops up. I mean, it was just Energizer bunnies from start to finish.
Hey, I don't do this very often, and I don't think I've ever done it to you. Told you so. I told you that fight was going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
That was like that. I had one. That was one that I circled on. I could steal the show and be fight of the night. I think there was a little too much grappling for it to just be like electric. But people don't understand how exhausting it is to put somebody in a body triangle for basically 5 minutes in that first round. And his gas tank held up, and then for Mauro to fight off chokes for 4.5 minutes of the first round, and like they both. I mean, the skill level was incredible in that fight. Mauro is so crafty and so just game. Really fun. I think we have a really, really fun matchup for him in the near future. And Jose was great, and you know we'd love to have him back too.
He was awesome.
Really fun.
I also said it on the broadcast. Mauro is just the nicest guy in the world.
He
smiling
was
the whole way through.
He was smiling in the fight. I was like, is he smiling right now? And Cody's like, he's smiling. And I'm like, and then the guy's on his back, cross face, grinding his forearm across him. And as soon as that arm releases, you see it. And he's just like smiling. And dude, he was smiling at weigh-ins, cutting weight. Who's dehydrated and like smiling, like chipper and just happy to be there? Honestly, like one of the most pleasant people I've ever been around at a show.
I completely agree with you. He's awesome, man. All right, Zeke Latu versus Ruben Roundstone. I don't think anyone thought that this would go deep into the waters of the second round, Zach. I mean, that was an interesting fight.
It was interesting because of the way it played out. Ruben, that was his game plan. He was going to jiu-jitsu him.
That was pretty funny what he said in the post-fight.
He's hilarious. And he's a guy that people can relate to. I mean, you know, being 4 years sober and getting off meth and stab wounds and shot and, like, left for dead. Like, talk about a guy that's turned his life around. Like, good for him. And now he's knocking on, you know, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with him for a potential title fight in the near future, or, you know, or at least a number one contenders at the very least. Ruben Roundstone, what a character, what a easy to like guy. He was really good to deal with. And, you know, for Zeke, I think what I love about Zeke is he's 3-3 now, and all three of those losses, like, he had them. He had them. He's just got to fix it. And he's still young enough. He's still just putting it together. He could put it together and go on a 3, 4, 5 win streak and be just fine and be in the UFC next year. He really could. So I don't know. I personally like care about so many people like Zeke for him, and I know this is a big fight for him. And I personally, on a personal level, I love the guy so much. I think he has the right mentality to fix what he needs to fix.
What a heavyweight bout that was. All right, we move to Zach. I believe at the tail end of 2024, we will be talking about this fight. as one of the fights of the year. Joel Haro opposite Albara Atme. It was special.
I knew Albara was good. I said it when I watched him. He reminded me of Joel. He was so tough. He was hurt so many times. And at the end of the day, I know his team wasn't happy with the decision. And I understand you're there and you want your guy to win. But, damage matters. Effective striking versus effective grappling. I think Joel pretty clearly won the effective striking for a majority of the round in the first and third round, and hurt Albara the worst. I don't really think Joel was hurt or in danger, really, at any point in the fight. I did think Albara won the second round, to be fair, even though the other three judges didn't. I really thought it was 1-1 going into the third. But Joel fought the way a vet fights with the third round. Was he went out there to make a statement on the fight, win the third round, and then, does what Joel does and throws spinning elbows and catch and caught him late in the round. Almost got him out of there. He is such an impressive young prospect, and has only lost to a now 4-0 undefeated fighter and now a 5-1, number one bantamweight in the state of Utah and one of the best bantamweight prospects in the country. What a stud. But dude, for Joel to come back the way he did after his first pro loss and put on a performance in a show like that at the Maverick Center, a place that he loves, and he was happy to be back. He showed up and showed out.
How about that Nate Diaz point as well? I mean, that was a little bit of showmanship as well.
That was sick. Like, I love that type of stuff. And he heard him and he knew it. And Joel, real champions, sometimes the comeback is the bigger part of the story. I don't make fights, but I will say this: whether it's Michael Sire or somebody else, Joel Haro's next fight will be for the Fierce Bantamweight title.
Absolutely love it. All right, we will move to the 160-pound catchweight bout between Justin Jaynes and Carson Hardman. Jaynes snaps a 6-fight losing streak here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I talked to Carson a little bit. He's ready to get back at it. He broke his nose and he said, "I'm going to get my nose fixed, and I want to stay active. I want to keep going." And for Justin to win the way he won, I think surprised a lot of people. But again, Justin, very experienced, been around a long time, and I think we underestimated the fact that of the veteran ability to compartmentalize the other issues he had going on. With his dad being hospitalized yesterday and all this stuff. And it was like, man, what's his mind frame like? And he even said, missed weight, my mind's not where it should be, that, and all these things. And he was so locked in and intense right as that fight was starting. I was like, oh, dang. And, I really didn't feel like Carson looked like Carson to me. I think he can perform better than that. I think Carson would tell you that. He came in with a game plan. And, he'll make the adjustments. Carson's never been one to make excuses, and it's one of the things I love about him. Again, it's like Zeke, I know he rubs some people the wrong way. I love Carson. Like, I do. I have a good personal relationship with him, and I know him as a person. I really like Carson. I think he'll be fine. It's such a brutal game, and he's one of those guys that puts his heart and soul into it and does everything, tries to do everything the right way. Really fascinating. Mike Jones was in his corner, former opponent, which was really cool to see. I'd like to see him work with Mike a little bit longer and see what that looks like as well. But Justin Jaynes, wow, like great win, and I'm interested to see what the future holds for him. But Carson will be back in the fierce cage as soon as he's healthy. No doubt about it.
What a story for Justin Jaynes to come back. All right, we move to the professional heavyweight title bout between Jared Vanderaa and Kent Mafileo. Zach, Kent Mafileo had a lot riding on this one. Your thoughts on the submission loss, Jared Vanderaa getting it done in the second round?
I would just say this. It's the same as I said it earlier. It's really hard. It's really hard to be on top of your game on fight night every single time. And guess what? Ever since Kent showed up for his pro debut at Fierce Fighting Championship, he's been on his game. I think he had a bad day at the office. That's what it looked like to me. I thought Jared was a very, very savvy, smart veteran, adjusted well. I was talking to him back here in the locker room, and he said, "Man, that guy hits hard." And I said, "Yeah, you fought guys that hit hard before." And he goes, "He hits hard. Like his power is right up there with anybody that Jared's fought in the UFC." Very, very impressive for him to stay composed and execute a game plan. Just got his first stripe on his black belt on Monday, and I thought Kent fought off, did a good job fighting off a handful of guillotine attempts before he finally lost it. The problem is Kent just made a problem, put his head in there one too many times. His coaches were telling him not to. He had a bad day at the office, and it's fine. And here's the other thing. I love Kent, and he's another one. Personally, I consider Kent one of my friends more than just a fighter for Fierce. I love Kent. I love his family, his brothers, everybody that I know that's around Kent. I love him. He's going to be just fine. I know he felt like the weight of the world was on this fight for him, but it was just another, he's going to be just fine because he's winning in life in a way right now that I don't know that he has as an adult. And I think as he continues to win in life, and it puts fighting and his fight career in perspective too, where it is, and because it does mean the world to him and it means so much to him, it will make him better. And it's not oh, I lost, I'm not an undefeated prospect anymore. I'm 36. It's whatever, and you could say whatever you want. The comeback for him could be terrifying wherever he fights next. And I that's the thing. We look at all these Utah guys, right? We bring these in 801 versus everyone. Everybody knows I love these guys here. Kent Mafileo, Carson Hardman, Zeke Latu, doesn't get it, go his way. Michael Eastwood, I love Fiji. Tyler Call, love him. Talon, the list goes. All these guys that didn't get their hands raised tonight, they're all going to have this opportunity to fight again. They'll be just fine, and to come back and as a fighter once myself who was undefeated, there's pressure with that, and you get that off your back, and I promise, I know Kent, I know who he is as a man. He's gonna be just fine because he's surrounded by the right people.
A wonderful show, lived up to all the expectations. Such a blast here tonight at Fierce Fighting Championship 30. We hit our first Challenger Series of 2024 in just a couple of weeks at Bonneville High School, March 23rd. Zach, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Nate Owens versus Steven Steyerwalt is the main event. It's going to be sick. We just finalized the deal tonight. I got verbal agreement done. Contracts are going out. Julian Ruiz will be making his return to the Fierce Cage as the co-main event on that card. From the poster, there's been a couple changes. I'm still looking for somebody for Ryder Campo. So anybody listening to this, 145 Pro, you want to fight Ryder, step up. And then Bane Varner will be fighting for the vacant 170 title, not against Camuela Mamone, but against somebody else waiting to get that finalized, but looking for another opponent for Camuela as well.
Cannot wait for it. Zach Partridge, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for an incredible event. It was a blast.
Thank you.